All right, what we're working with today is section 3.3, completing the square. And first thing we have to know is kind of what a square is. And so there's a square of a sum and a square of a difference. Let's look at this one, x plus 5 squared. That means that I have two of them. And so there's two ways to see this. We can distribute, which is also called foiling. Some of you have done that before. And so I get 5x. And then I get 5x and 25. And so together these make x squared plus, there's two 5's, so it's 10x plus 25. Another great way to see it is by actually drawing a square. And this is a Punnett square, so I have x with a positive 5 and x with a positive 5. This box right here is made up of x and x, which is x squared. This box here is made up of the 5 and the x, so that's 5x. This box right here is made up of 5 and x, so it's 5x. And then this one here is made up of 5 and 5, which is 25. You get the same answer, but the goal is that I want you guys to notice is that when you multiply, you have two of the same things. And so you'll always have two of them. You could do this without multiplying each time. The goal is to know that I'm going to do x squared and 7 squared. But because I'm doing this in a box, x was 7, x was 7, I know that's only this square and this square here. I know that I'm going to have this one, and they're each 7x. So that means if I have a 7x and the 7x, I get 14x. Now what I'd like you to try and do is fill in these. Same idea, you can do the distributing like I did on the first one, or one of these two box methods, or maybe you can just recognize the first one's x squared. The second one, this one's tricky. A negative 4 squared is a negative 4 times a negative 4, so it's actually a positive 16. But what's going to go here in the middle? That's right, because what I have is I'm going to have two negative 4x's. I'm going to have two of those things, so it's negative 8x. Same thing here, the first one squared, the last one squared, and again, a negative 1 times a negative 1 is positive 1. But when I multiply my box out, I know I have this and this, but the question is, what are these? And those are each negative 1x. And those together make negative 2x. It's important to be able to do some of these by looking at it and remembering the rules, because then when we have to work backwards, like we have to do on the bottom two of these tables, it makes it easier. And so I have to think, what number squared gives me 36? And that's 6. And if I have two 6's, that does give me 12. What number squared gives me 100? Well, that's 10. And if I have two 10's, I get 10 or 20. Same thing here. What number squared gives me 81? Well, that's 9. But you see how this is a negative? So that means they're minus 9. And on the last one, what number squared gives me 121? Well, that's 11. And it's a negative. The other way that you could do this is you guys could focus on the middle. And you can ask yourself, okay, I have to have two of them that make 12. Well, two 6's make 12. And so that's why it's 6. Same thing here. 20 divided by 2 is 10. And 10 squared is 100. Negative 18 divided by 2 is negative 9. and negative 9 squared is 81. Negative 22 divided by 2 is negative 11, and a negative 11 squared is 121. So that's the main thing that we're going to focus on today in these notes. We're separating these notes into two different sections to make sure you get a handle of it. And so to complete the square, your goal is to get a binomial squared like the expressions in the left. So I want to have something with an x plus something squared or an x minus something squared. So the question is, what are these blanks? I didn't write the blanks, but that's what they are. They're blanks. So what number do I have 2 of to give me 8? Now, one little rule that you can remember is that you're always going to divide this middle number by 2. And 8 divided by 2 is 4. And then to do this part, 4 squared, let's change colors. 4 squared is 16. So you kind of have to go down. You go 8 divided by 2, that gives me the 4. And then 4 squared is 16. Do the same colors on the next one. Same thing here. I have an x, and I'm going to have something squared. I take this middle number and I divide by 2. Negative 12 divided by 2 is negative 6. And then I square that. Negative 6 squared is a positive 36. Okay? Even when you have odd numbers, you could do the same thing. It's going to look a little funny, but I'm just going to divide that middle number by 2. Now, I don't want decimals. I want to keep things as fractions. 5 divided by 2 is just 5 over 2. And when I square this, 5 squared is 25, and 2 squared is 4. And so you're going to leave it as a fraction. Okay, and the last one, again, I'm going to divide the middle number by 2. 11 divided by 2 is just 11 divided by 2. And now I square it. And so 11 squared is 121 over 2 squared, which is 4. And so it might be helpful if we write down what the steps are. So step 1 is to divide middle number, which is the number with the x, by 2. And that will tell you what goes inside. That number goes in here. And then the second step is you square that number. You square this number, and it'll help you find what the c value is, the last value. So then it'll be x squared plus whatever you had for x plus this number squared goes here. Okay. All right, and so that's it for today. We're just going to practice with finding what this first number is inside the parentheses and what the c value is on the outside. And the next class we'll work on what it actually looks like to solve those.